Hello, everyone, and welcome to Storyboard, the storytelling talk show. My name is Cameron Yves Davis, your host. Each week on this show, I bring on a guest from the artistic community, various artistic communities, to talk about themselves, their artistic projects, and what stories are really speaking to them lately. And then, in the second part of the show, we play the game of Storyboard, a storytelling game for 2 players that was created for this show. By the end of it, we will have created a story together, and we hope you enjoy watching us do so. So without further ado, welcome to Storyboard. And welcome back. My guest for this week is Benjamin Wilson. Benjamin Wilson is an award-winning cinematographer, screenwriter, and songwriter who has worked as a professional in the film and television industry for over a decade. Ben was formerly trained at the School of Motion Picture, Television, and Recording Arts and Florida State University, graduating in 2005. Ben worked in camera and electrical departments before moving into a management role as Chief Creative Officer for Cornerstone Media, overseeing day-to-day operations of the staff, coordinating production schedules, and overseeing the future possibilities in documentary and narrative projects. Ben has also continued to write, and after he and his writing partner formed Last Pint Productions in 2011, they qualified as a runner-up in both the Scriptapalooza and Fresh Voices competitions for the pilot episode of a conceptual television series, DreamWriters. Since that time, Last Pint Productions has launched and relaunched their podcast, The New Way, discussions on movies, television, and pop culture, which can be found on all major streaming services, and have recently launched the online series Wrecked Reruns, which will be streaming on YouTube. So, Ben, welcome to the show. You are live.
Wonderful to be here. Thanks, Cameron.
My main question, and will be my first question throughout the run of this show for the foreseeable future, is just, how are you doing with everything that's happening?
I'm really actually, I feel like we're pretty fortunate in that, nobody has gotten furloughed or, lost their job. I mean, there's so many people who are in really, really, much worse positions than we are. The distance learning thing with my 6-year-old twin daughters was a little bit challenging.
That'll do it.
We're into summer, so basically now they just play Nintendo Switch and watch Netflix all day, which is, summer.
That's what I do. Yeah.
But we're basically just trying to keep. On the bright side, the podcast that I co-host. We've been able to do a lot more just because out of kind of necessity. Like, we haven't been able to leave the house really. So it's just like, well, okay, we can knock out like a bunch of these. So now we've got a backlog, of like 4 or 5 episodes. So that's great.
So tell me about the podcast. I listened to a bit of it. Y'all are very funny. I enjoyed your banter. But do you have like ideas going in to each episode, like specific topics, or is it just?
So it's called the New Way Podcast, and we had initially started it in 2013. We did 30 episodes with the idea of taking it like a season and like taking a break and coming back. And then we just never did. But we relaunched it in 2017 with another friend. So there are 3 of us with a more professional setup. So it doesn't sound like you're talking through two tin cans. But yes, we go into every episode with a pretty clear thesis or concept. Like, here's what we're going to talk about: one-hit wonders, whether that be movies, directors, actors, or we're going to talk about cinematography in one episode. We're going to talk about editing in one episode. It's different things. But then we've branched out now that we write musical parodies or musical adaptations of popular film properties. Nice. We play games. We do all sorts of things along those lines. So it's basically just kind of a good outlet for us to be assholes.
Sure. And I mean, that's always good, and I appreciate a sort of hang out and talk about what you like sort of podcast, and that sounds like what it is, and I definitely love that as an idea. Because I mean, especially in these times, having the ability to hang out with your friends and is somewhat challenging, and I have found, at least in doing the D&D podcast that I do and stuff, it's really useful for having a schedule for when you're actually having to meet your friends, because it's like hard to actually I don't know. I think schedules just help in general in life.
Absolutely. I mean, but yeah, it has been nice. And a lot of the times, like we'll record and then we end up staying on a Zoom for like another 2 hours.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, drinking some beers and talking. So
yeah,
it's been, like I said, through the whole thing, we've been through, especially the Corona, it's been pretty fortunate. We've been pretty fortunately positioned in that, yeah, we're able to kind of, have a little contact that way.
Are you still doing, I mean, cinematography seems like a difficult job to keep going during this though.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was kind of my main focus when I came out of school. But with my job, I more oversee the entire organization.
Oh, cool.
The production division of the organization. So I'm still shooting stuff occasionally, but it's, obviously a lot of projects kind of went to a screeching halt, but we still had a bunch of stuff that was in the hopper.
Right.
So essentially it became the type of scenario where, we had all these things that we're supposed to shoot in April or May or June, and now they're like all getting dumped into August, September, and October, along with the projects we're working on then as well. So it's going to end up being pretty challenging, but
just a lot of work, but at least you've got it.
Yeah.
And that's exciting. Like having all those projects and being able to do them is
sure.
Really
so basically, I mean, a lot of our producers and on our team have just been writing a lot and trying to kind of get as much work done as they possibly can. So
it's what you can do. So I have one of my questions, and I always like asking this of filmmakers, because I mean I've got my own story of like why I got into it, but what got you into the filmmaking side of things, like in your life, like how'd that trajectory go?
I was always a huge fan of movies, and I think I was probably in 7th or 8th grade, and I was just like, it would be cool to make movies.
Yep.
So I kind of started on that path towards thinking about like going to film school, and I thought I visited a bunch. My mother and I went to Los Angeles, and like we went around to USC and UCLA and Emerson and not Emerson, Chapman. Right. Emerson's where my wife went to school. I visited a bunch of places, and truly like my favorite tour I went on was FSU, which I went to with my dad. And just because it was it's a small program, there are only 30 people per class. Oh, well, that's great for intimate learning. It's a very, I mean, by the end of 3.5 years, those people inside and out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty insane. You go into proverbial battle with them. But so I fortunately, that was the one super selective school that I got into, and as soon as I did, I was supposed to go to Arkansas to do an interview to get into USC, and I was just like, screw it, no, I'm gonna go to FSU instead.
Yeah, may as well.
And so I went there, which was a great experience and a lot of fun, but then after college, I had never really liked LA. I never really wanted to go there. I
have similar feelings.
I mean, it's just a cesspool. And I have a lot of friends. Well, the irony is I had a lot of friends, upperclassmen, who were going out there and struggling a lot. So I'm just like, this is going to be a good decision. I'm just moving home. Thought I had a job lined up for me, basically, that ended up being a job, but working like a day or two a week, loading film mags and stuff like that. And ended up moving to Florida to pursue another thing. But so I very quickly got into kind of the management side of things.
Sure.
So most of the actual creative side of filmmaking, or documentary storytelling, I've had to kind of do on my own on the side, or I've kind of been able to cherry pick certain projects, being that I oversee the company. If there's a project that comes through that I really want to work on, I'm positioned in I can go to the owners and basically say, hey, I kind of want to do this.
Yeah, you get to place yourself in that. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. I get to throw my hat in the ring kind of when I want to. So that's been really wonderful. Although, especially ever since COVID happened, I've been, like, I want to give as much work to the producers as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
It used to be like more of just like a volume issue. Like we literally have too many projects we're going to work on. Okay, Ben, you do one. So
that makes sense. So tell me about Last Pint Productions and everything that you do.
Right. So Last Pint started with my friend Matthew Schenk and I, and he essentially had this kind of property rolling around in his head. Basically, it was just concept. He didn't really have a story or anything along those lines, but he basically kind of told me the concept, and we fleshed it out into a pilot episode of a series.
Is this DreamWriters?
This is DreamWriters, yeah. And so basically what happened was we fleshed out we did a Bible for the series. We wrote the first 2 episodes. And then we put the pilot out, and fortunately got some really cool opportunities with a couple of contests. We were runners up in 2 contests. But basically we started Last Pint just because we're like, okay, well, if we ever get to the point where we can sell this or do something with it, we need to like incorporate ourselves essentially. So we have, so we went through all of that. But now its primary purpose is, like I said, it's just our kind of namesake for the podcast, for any other creative endeavors that we're going to try.
I see.
The new show idea that we have for YouTube. So that's it. Essentially, it's just kind of, who knows, maybe down the road we'll do other stuff with it too, but it's basically just 3 friends who,
it's the best kind of company, honestly,
who do random shit.
Well, I think it's nice to have that sort of that's what this is what Hellas Hand is. This, my production company, it's just me doing all of my projects. I put everything under Hellas Hand, from my music to my D&D podcast to this show. Everything's just Hellas Hand Productions, because it's way easier that way. And yeah, so your main job is still with Cornerstone then?
Yes.
I see.
And like I said, I've been there almost 15 years now, which is insane.
That's a long time.
But, it's a long time. But no, it's that's like I said, I'm fortunate enough that I also work in a job that I can be creative occasionally, like when I need, when the opportunity arises. But
it's not just managerial.
Last Pint's more of the fun thing, with naughty words.
Right. Fun thing with I love it. You mentioned this new show idea. That's the Wrecked Reruns, I'm assuming. Right. So I tried looking for it, but no information is out there yet.
Well, you're gonna see. Well, so there's the reason why, because it's not live yet.
It's not ready yet.
Yeah. It'll be coming in the next month or so.
Okay, cool.
But basically, what happened was during this kind of COVID thing, Matt had the idea to do a table read of a popular property. So basically, he got together with some friends from the local playhouse here, and they read the pilot episode of The Golden Girls, and they had a fun time. And then we did the same thing with Arrested Development. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, this stuff, I mean, it was fun because it was just all of us getting to connect and have fun and read something, over Zoom.
Yeah.
But my thought process was like, well, what if we did something that's not supposed to be funny and we make it funny? So
Wrecked.
Wrecked, yeah. And that's kind of where the concept comes from, is that basically what I did, and the thing you can find online if you go on YouTube, it's the Last Pint Productions YouTube has it. I think it's the most recent video. But I found a transcript of an episode of the first season of Passions, which was a very, very bad
soap opera.
Yeah. But it was only dialogue, so I made up everything else around it. So it's the circumstance, like where they are, what they're doing, what they're thinking. Like I intentionally wrote it purposefully bad, like in interior character motivations and all that type of stuff as well.
That's amazing.
Like stuff that's not originally supposed to be in a script, and I put it in there just to make it funny, because it's so over serious and so over dramatic. So I recontextualized the entire thing, and we recorded it, and it was a blast. We had a really fun time. It was a little over long.
Yeah,
you realize how much dialogue there is in an hour-long episode of
so
soap
much
opera.
So much dialogue.
So much dialogue in a soap opera,
and everything is overwrought. It's always just
We had such a good time with it, and we thought it was so organically funny to kind of recontextualize it. We're paring it down to more of a half-hour format, and as opposed to doing a long introduction, we're going to write in the character details. But the idea is that the actors don't know what they're reading until the second that it starts. So I send out the script to all of the actors, and they read it blind.
It's awesome.
So they had no idea we were reading an episode of Passions until literally 5 minutes before we started reading it.
That's amazing. Plus, then with that sort of thing, you can get really honest sort of reactions to how ridiculous it is from the actors as well.
Well, and it was really fun because, I mean, it's cool because obviously you're reading a role, and I've given some kind of base character motivation or whatever within the context of the script or the character description, but they can do whatever they want to with it. So it almost turns into an improv game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, for some reason, our friend Ryan in Texas, who joined us on this Passions read through, just all of a sudden started reading this one character with a Boston accent, and it was hysterical. And like, I mean, it was just so, and I was like, what made you think that? He's like, I saw the word cop, and I just had to pronounce it like
cop,
cop, you know? And I was like, so he just started going full on Boston with it, and it ended up being hysterical. So
that sounds incredible to me.
I think it'll be fun too when we can start populating it with a lot of, I have a lot of friends who work in performance and acting, both from sort of the feature film side all the way down to the theater side.
Yeah,
and so it'll be fun to start kind of bringing people in and kind of circulating our cast, because we can get some people who I know are going to be who can really think on their feet pretty quick, and I think it's going to end up being a lot of fun.
Well, if you need a guest performer, I would love to do that. That sounds very
100%.
fun. Ridiculous and fun. Did you find like various soap opera scripts, or have you found like different things?
The only one that's on YouTube right now, and it's to be clear, it's not even an episode of the show. Like the show, we're actually trying to put into a half-hour format. We're trying to kind of pare it down. This was more of just a beta test
preview.
Yeah. It was just us kind of seeing if the concept would work.
Right.
And it was like, I think the way I called it online was like a well orchestrated house fire. It's like, it's so bizarre and off the wall. And so a lot of it, people, you just end up laughing half the way through scenes and stuff like that. I mean, it's just,
I'd expect
it's like an SNL sketch at times, but yeah, so hopefully soon, as we start getting episodes together, but it's going to be a variety of properties. For example, my next script, like Passions, that's kind of a niche show. I did love that, like how many times they reference the internet in
the World Wide Web.
But yeah, so I think that we're going to do both. I mean, I'm sure that we probably will go back to the soap opera well, but there are also lots of opportunities with like very popular shows that just came out in the 80s, or like I mean, I might do an episode like Knight Rider or something like that.
That'd be good.
But like I said, just take the transcript though, but recontextualize every single scene. Like,
it's like doing a Shakespeare show nowadays, except in an even more ridiculous way.
Sure.
Because I've seen like, Shakespeare shows are set in various places now because there is no actual specific place it needs to be, so they put them in like Vegas or whatever. But yours is like that sort of idea, but making it ridiculous and fun. And that's wonderful.
The idea is just to make it as silly as we possibly can. And really, when I was putting together the first transcript, the Passions transcript, the thing I was thinking is, what can I write that's going to throw the actors off their game? Like I'm deliberately trying to screw them up. I'm trying to get them to break. It's kind of like the whole Stefan SNL thing. With, apparently they used to they were like, write whatever is going to make Bill crack. And that was the intent. And so that was kind of the intent when I was putting the original Passions thing together. But the fun part is we're going to circulate. I'm not going to be writing all of these.
Yeah.
I have one prepared, the new one prepared, but so do Nick and Matt, the other two members of Last Pint Productions. So we're going to circulate, and each time the person who wrote it's going to be essentially the reader, reading the action, and reading all of the, the stuff, all the stuff in between, location, any sort of character details or anything along those lines, and so that way we all get to kind of participate in different capacities every single time that the show is on. So
that sounds wonderful. I look forward to it. I will eventually edit the description of this to have Last Pint Productions information in the YouTube description. I have their website there if you want to check it out, though. Awesome. And yeah, so that's obviously like one of the questions on here was what are some projects you're working on lately? So that sounds really wonderful. But I did want to ask as well, what are some of the projects you're most proud to have worked on throughout your career?
Ooh, I mean, well, going back to when I was in school, I worked on a few films that I was really, really proud of. Whether I was, I mean, regardless of what capacity I was working in it on. A couple of our friends, I was at FSU at the same time as Barry Jenkins and James Laxton, who's the cinematographer for Moonlight and all of Barry's films and other fantastic films. Michael Giolakis, who was the he wasn't even in school, but he in film school, but he volunteered on all the films. He's the one who shot films like Glass and It Follows, and he works with Shyamalan all the time now. Cool. But there's lots of fun stuff that we did working with some of those individuals. Amy Seimetz, who's one of my, I love her. She's a great actress, great actor, great person. I acted with her in a couple of projects, and I directed her in a project, and nice. I was like key grip on our friend Justin Barber, who also has done some directing work in LA. Has done a few movies. I would say back in the day, I was just proud of like all of that stuff that we were making. It was just kind of, everybody was like babies, you know.
Yeah.
But it was cool seeing some of Barry's early work, like his third project in film school, My Josephine, was like this incredible kind of reaction to 9/11, and it was like you watch it and you're like, this guy's going somewhere.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like I love that shit.
But yeah, so I was really proud of all of that. Now then, when it got to my professional career, the format has limited us in some capacity because we've had some. We essentially do a lot of short form educational style documentary.
Oh, sure.
But there is pretty cool, and there are tons of projects I've worked on, tons of projects that I feel super proud of to be a part of it in some capacity. But I would say probably like we did some really good work with Smithsonian. Was really happy with how that came out. And there are some other kind of nonprofit organizations that we've done some work with that I'm really happy about. So I would say, you know, that's probably it.
It's exciting. I love hearing people in the industry actually enjoying what they do and feeling proud of their work too. Yeah. So that's wonderful.
That's great.
So that's awesome. Now we are coming to the end of the interview, and I have the single question that I ask every single person besides the "How are you doing?" with gestures vaguely. And it is, what stories are speaking to you in any medium? What stories are really speaking to you lately?
So I'm interested when you typically ask this question, do you have guests say specific properties, and they say like
genuinely
movies or TV or something along those lines, or just the type of things that
it's really up to you, but generally people have like, I've really been into this podcast lately, or this movie or whatever. But it's up to you.
Well, sure. There's one recommendation I can throw out there, just because I really enjoyed, my wife and I both really enjoyed watching it, was The Great on Hulu, which was...
I've heard of that.
So it's about Catherine the Great, but again, it's sort of a recontextualization of the common knowledge of Catherine the Great,
sure,
and the tropes of that sort of. It also is kind of common on the tropes that historical dramas have.
Right.
It's almost like, it's a historical dark comedy, but it's in ways, it feels like it has more similarities to something like, like Always Sunny in Philadelphia, that does The Crown. It takes kind of the facts and then puts all of and that's kind of what, very similar to the show that we're trying to put together.
Yeah.
It basically takes part of history that's accurate, and then it just does everything else around it. And I think that's a really interesting way of story. I think it's really great storytelling. I would compare it tonally to The Favorite, the film that came out a couple of years ago, with that. Obviously won many awards.
Yeah.
But essentially, that was also kind of a retelling of a historical fact, but in a way that was very kind of lurid.
Yeah, there seem to be a few of those coming out nowadays. It's like we are wanting this. We want to know history, but we don't want to like dress it up in a too nice way.
Right.
And like it just makes it we've seen historical dramas they've been done many times now. So it's cool seeing that sort of thing be created.
Yeah. Well, it was there's also there's another similarity from The Favorite. Nicholas Hoult plays the king in The Great, and he's just phenomenal. He's a great actor to begin with, but he's so funny, and a lot of the lines are just so. It's an extremely well written show, and I always like, and I've liked this since I was a kid. I always like movies or TV shows that take kind of a preconceived notion, or take something that everybody seems to know something about, and then it recontextualizes them or puts them in some sort of new light. I've always enjoyed those types of stories, and that was The Great was just, I mean, not only was Elle Fanning just phenomenal as well, I mean, she's an incredible actor, but it was a lot of fun. It felt like a really, really rich sandbox for some creatives to play in. I'm like, oh, this actually happened. What can we do to contextualize this to make it really funny? But darkly awesome. Funny. I mean, like, there's seriously one episode where he tortures everybody in court, which happened because he thought somebody was trying to kill him, which they were. But so there's an entire episode about torture, and it's all of these people being tortured by the king, and so they're all, of course, pissed at him. So like, and he's just like, you're doing this for your country, be happy, or whatever, and they're all just like, getting their fingernails pulled off and stuff like
Jesus.
That. It's just that
sounds great.
It's very dark, and it's wickedly funny.
I will have to check that one out, because that sounds directly up my alley.
It's on Hulu.
Yeah, great, awesome. I will add it to the list, because currently I use Hulu. Well, I used to use Hulu mostly for wrestling, but I don't want to support WWE right now.
Wow.
So, but that sounds awesome. I'll definitely check that out, and everyone else should too. Anyway, we're going to take a very short, minute, maybe 2 minute break, and then we'll come back for the second half, and we will write a story together in the half hour. So everybody watching, the all zero people, or those rewatching it can happen. Just stay tuned. And welcome back. So we are going into the second part of the show, and that involves us playing the storytelling game of Storyboard. Just to give a quick rundown of how the game works to everybody watching. For this, we'll be using a single suit from a deck of cards. I've gone with clubs today. So 13 cards total, and consulting a series of tables which will guide us through the creation of our story. We'll start by drawing a card each to determine 2 characters who will be central to the story. Next, we'll draw a card for an important location, and then one for an important object. We'll then take 3 turns each, drawing a card and consulting the events table, which will tell us a thing that happens at some point in the story and ask us questions as to how the characters are involved. At the end, we'll draw a random card from the final 3 cards we have, the Climax Card, which will throw some more chaos into the mix. All right, so, you ready to get started?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right, so you are the guest, so you get to choose the genre that we're going to be playing.
What genre has not been chosen yet?
We have not done teen drama or horror.
We are going to do a teen drama then.
Excellent. I'm super down. So I basically based this one off a little bit of Riverdale because I'm obsessed with that stupid show. So, all right. Let me get the teen drama music started. Perfect. Okay. All right. Let me switch to the gaming screen. So, for viewers, upper left is where I will be putting all the information we create through the creation of this story. Upper right is our guest. Ben is up there. I'm down in the lower right. And on the left side here, lower left, I will be placing the cards as I draw them so that you can make sure I'm not cheating at this game, that there is no cheating. All right. So first we have
the game that you made up the rules for.
Yes, that one. That's the one. So first things first, we have to draw a couple characters. So let's draw your character first. I'm just going to make sure these are super shuffled. And let me get to the characters thing of teen drama, which is all the way down at the bottom. All right. It is a 9. A 9 is the rich kid.
Yes. That's exactly the one I wanted.
Excellent. So we've got 9 here. And we've got the rich kid. Now come up with a name for the rich kid here.
Lance.
Lance, that's perfect. Rich kid name. Yeah, hell yeah. So we've got Lance the rich kid. Not the Dragon Master from Pokemon. All right, next is mine. Let's see. That's an 8, and it's the principal. Interesting dynamics can be had here.
I think we're going tete-a-tete here.
Yes, the principal, and his name is Jerry Manners.
Jerry Manners.
Yes, he's Mr. Manners. So we have Jerry
Principal Manners.
Principal Manners
that's
to you.
Principal Manners
to you, to you, Lance. And do you think the rich kid is a problem child, or what sort of relationship do the principal here and Lance have, do you think?
I think that Lance basically thinks he runs the school, which he kind of does.
Okay. I am seeing Mr. Manners as sort of a bumbling, sort of Buffy type principal, like the first principal.
That works well.
Yeah. All right. So
but doesn't the principal and Buffy end up being the big bad in like season 4?
That one, yes. So there are a few principals. No, the mayor does. The mayor does.
Yeah, it's the mayor.
And Principal Snyder is a douchebag, but the first principal gets eaten by hyenas.
That's right.
Or hyena kids. Anyway, this has nothing to do with our story. So next we're drawing for an object and a location. So the first one, locations. I've got 7, which is the secret spot under the bridge.
Now it's going to turn into a completely different kind of story.
It could. We can do anything. The secret spot under the bridge. So that's an important location that has to come up some point during this story. Much like how Fiasco does it, if you've ever played that. All right. And next is our object. and that's a 4, and it's a hammer.
Ooh.
Ooh. This could take a pretty dark turn, I think.
I think it could.
I
mean, it's a high school drama.
Yeah, yeah. And just so you know, you can introduce NPCs and things. We've just got the main characters, and during the events, you can use either of our characters. We don't have to specifically only play your person.
Okay.
The events that we choose can happen at any point during the story. Don't be afraid to retcon and go back in the past or anything like that either.
Okay.
Because it's more a storytelling game than a role-playing game. Also, as you are a guest, you also get a single mulligan, which means if you draw a card and you matches with an event and you don't like it, we can reshuffle the whole deck and redraw if you want.
Oh, I'm not going to cheat.
Okay. All right. So, would you like to start, or would you like me to for the
You can
events?
start.
All right, great.
I'll piggyback on you.
Cool. So, first event is 5. Ooh, interesting. Rumors of ghosts swirl amongst the students. One of you knows the truth. So I think that these rumors are happening, and they're all sort of centralized around, let's say, Mr. Manners' wife. Or, yeah, sure, I've said it. It's happening. There's a rumor of her being into this, like, these occult things, and Mr. Manners is very annoyed about these rumors going around, but obviously...
Is she still alive, or is she dead?
I was going to say dead, probably.
Yes, okay.
So his late wife, Mr. Manners' late wife, used to, like, talk with spirits or something like that, and there's a lot of ghost talk around Mr. Manners and his old ancient house, which is on the outskirts of town. And I think that Lance has to uncover at some point some sort of truth about it, but currently only Mr. Manners knows that there are ghosts, and his wife did do that, and something happened to cause her death, I think. So that's this scene.
Would it possibly involve a hammer?
It might. It might involve a hammer and the special spot
under the bridge.
Exactly, it could. So Mr. Manners' late wife, let's call her Gloria,
Late wife name.
Yeah, supposedly used to work with ghosts and spirits. Lots of ghost talk happens about his wife and his old ancient house on the outskirts of town. Mr. Manners knows that his wife did indeed work with ghosts, and something happened which led to her death. So that's our first. We're starting really supernatural in this one. So, because
when you draw rumors of ghosts swirl amongst the students, I mean, what direction are you going to go?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I had based this one on sort of a mix of Buffy and Riverdale and all that weirdness. So it's every teen thing I could think of, but it is high school. All right.
I thought we were going to write a new season of Degrassi.
Yeah. Well, not in this show. All right. Next is your go. King. An embarrassing video involving one or both of you went viral. How do you react?
Okay, so I'm thinking here that... So Lance runs the school.
Yeah.
Right? And there's... at least he thinks he does, basically. He's popular. We've got tons of friends, tons of money. Comes from like the richest family in town.
Sure.
He's got everything that that you could possibly want.
Yeah.
But I believe that this viral video somehow involves a problem with the principal.
For sure.
An argument, or maybe not an argument, but more of a conversation between the two of them in the principal's office that was taped unbeknownst to them.
That's good.
Lance reveals that he believes in ghosts and spirits and is also trying to connect with the other side.
Yes, that's good.
And when it's released, it becomes he becomes an embarrassment. All of his rich friends, or whatever, start turning their back on him. And I think that the thing is that Lance, who is into these spiritual sessions and into the occult and everything like that, was trying to help Principal Manners contact his dead wife in order to find out who it was that killed her.
That's good. I love it. Okay, so Lance was trying to help the principal contact his late wife to determine who killed her. I love that. So we've got
somebody taped him.
Right, I've got that. So Lance runs the school. He's the most popular kid with a lot of power and money. A viral video of a conversation between Lance and Manners, taped without their knowledge, reveals that Lance believes in ghosts, etc., and is trying to connect to the other side. All his rich friends abandon him after this video goes viral. Lance was trying to help the principal contact his late wife to determine who killed her. Does that sum it up?
That sums it up.
Sweet. So that's really great. I love that already. Let's move on to my go. 10. One of you has an excellent family situation, one doesn't. Who has which and what circumstances made each happen? So this is just sort of background information, really, but it can help inform the characters. And I mean, I think that... stop autosaving. Document. There you go. I think that obviously Lance has the better family situation. I think he has parents who sort of dote on him, and he's a bit spoiled. But this is sort of what leads him to wanting to do something else. Like he's stuck in this I'm the rich kid sort of way. And that's when he starts using his money and whatnot to purchase information about the occult and whatnot. And then he hears these rumors about the principal. So he's trying to escape his sort of boring rich kid life. It's a good life, but he wants sort of more adventure, and he gets embroiled in this whole thing. So I'm typing that up. Lance is pretty good. If way too comfortable.
I like all of that.
Rich kid life, which
there's
leads
more under the surface for Lance.
Yeah, which leads him.
I believe there's
to
also more under the surface for Principal Lanners.
Oh, for sure.
Manners, but we're gonna.
Oh, we'll explore that, which leads him to explore the occult, and as the rumors swirl about Principal Manners and his wife, he offers the principal his help. He's looking for a way out of his boring rich kid life. Cool. So that was a little background information. Next, it's your go. What have you got for us, game? Ooh. So this I have a few ideas for this too. So 3, Homecoming is coming up. You were both involved in how? And how does it tie into our ghost story?
I think that Principal Manners' wife was killed on Homecoming the previous year.
Yes, for sure.
And so we're approaching the 1-year anniversary of her death. And besides all of the trappings that go with being a popular kid and going to Homecoming, he also wants to use the opportunity on a night that has significance for the Manners family and to try and actually reach out and make contact with Gloria.
Yes. That's awesome. And Principal Manners and him they come up with a plan, I would say, for Homecoming night. Maybe while a certain song is playing or something, that's when they're going to go to the secret spot under the bridge.
Right.
And do this ritual. So they can sort of sneak out. I think
that the secret spot under the bridge is where her body was found.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Cool. Let me write that down. They choose a time during the Homecoming dance. You cool with during a specific song, or do you have it?
I really think that they're trying to figure out who killed her.
I agree. With
the hammer.
Yes, I agree.
I'm sorry to jump ahead or retcon that.
No.
I think that's what the plan is.
I think that's great. Yeah. They choose. to go to the secret spot under the bridge.
It was obviously Colonel Mustard.
Yes,
with the
hammer at the secret spot under the bridge. Exactly. To go to the secret spot under the bridge where Gloria's body was found slain with a hammer.
Yes.
To contact her and figure out who did it. Sweet. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Nice. All right. So 2 more cards for normal events. So we be going beyond what, obviously, like I've done it a couple times, but going beyond what the card said and adding more information, always welcome and excellent. So
okay.
Just to tie everything together, these are supposed to be like their stepping stones to. All right. 6. Something about the other person draws you to them. What is it? This is not necessarily romantic. So, obviously, we've got the idea that it is this occult thing and so Lance was drawn to Principal Manners and his ancient creepy house because of the occult and wanting to get into it. And then he got really into this murder tale of Principal Manners' wife. So into it that like Principal Manners and him, I see them having like arguments about, we just got to let it go, says Principal Manners, and Lance is like, no, we're solving this mystery, even if I have to delve into the dark arts even more or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And Manners eventually is like, all right, we'll make a plan then. I found my wife's old writings. She was coming up with this thing to do on homecoming last year. And this is what her journal says, and so that's when that plan comes up.
I like it.
To do it during homecoming. So let me. Lance was.
Yeah.
Maybe we see a flashback in here of the argument between Manners and Lance, where Lance says, "We must find out who killed your wife, even if we have to delve deeply into the dark arts." Manners is originally not entirely on board and wants to let it go and move on, but is convinced. It turns out,
I feel like, and let me skip ahead here, I feel like we're setting it up for Principal Manners to actually be the killer. So we're gonna M Night this. We're gonna M Night this bitch.
It does seem like we're setting that up. I think it could be interesting either way, whether he's the red herring or not. I think because there's anyway. Let me continue reading. So according to Gloria's journal, she had been planning a ritual last year at homecoming. So that's where the homecoming plan comes from. For Lance and Manners. Sweet. All right, so the time is coming. So let's see what this last card says for you. Jack.
Oh God, that's the one I didn't want to get.
It's interesting. You can do the thing. You can mulligan if you want. Or
Let's mulligan that one.
Okay. Ooh, that's great.
We're in too deep now, Cameron.
Yeah, we are. 2, a student has been found dead. How are you involved?
Oh, see, that's
good.
A good one.
That's a good one. Yeah.
So 3 days before homecoming actually happens, another kid from Lance's class, a girl, let's call her Sylvia, is found dead at the secret spot under the bridge.
Was it a hammer?
There's no hammer found, but there was a blunt object that has hit her in the head, and she is found dead there. As a matter of fact, there are conversations that are going on. They're talking about maybe they should just cancel homecoming. But they decide, in her memory, to hold vigil and press on.
Nice. So homecoming is going to...
Sylvia and Lance used to date.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, that has to be that connection.
Of course.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, but Lance, I feel, is still really gung-ho about, like, we're doing it now.
Yes.
More than ever, we're solving this problem. All right. So now it comes to the climax card, and we can finish this story up and find out what happened. This is really cool so far, so let's do it. Jack, someone makes a dramatic mistake. So this is where we work together for the climax. So.
Okay. Someone makes a dramatic mistake.
So I think we got to skip to the event. During homecoming, Lance and the principal go off to the secret spot to do their plan.
Which is now a crime scene, too. It's taped off because of Sylvia's recent passing.
Yeah, now a taped off crime scene.
But Lance convinces Principal Manners that the spiritual energy is going to be so high on the anniversary of his wife's passing that they have to go to this spot.
Yeah, so they sneak in.
But I think if we're talking about a mistake.
Yeah, I think Lance killed his wife.
I'm there.
Yeah. It's got to be.
I think we were setting it up as Principal Manners.
Like, because Manners was all like saying, no, I don't want to do it. I just want to move on.
I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Right, or whatever.
And so it's like pretending.
I think that's where we're getting to, is that Lance was got so indoctrinated and so into the occult that he
had actually been talking about, like, with Gloria about it prior.
Right, exactly. And they had been talking about communing and about doing this. And then I think that Gloria finds out that Lance had killed before.
Yeah.
And that's when he kills her with the hammer.
Lance had been... I got to write all this down, but we got to figure out how that connection works. Let me write it down.
Here's how the connection with Sylvia works. Sylvia had been dating Lance at that time.
Right.
And always had suspicions, but had a feeling that she knew. But I think that Gloria communicated with Sylvia that Lance was a killer, and that is what caused Lance to kill Sylvia at the same time, basically, in the same place. But I still think, in order to tie it all together, though,
sorry, I'm typing a lot.
No, but I think that, so what happens is they go back to the place, and Gloria does make contact.
Oh,
she
yeah.
makes contact with Principal Manners and tells her husband that, this is danger. This is terrible. This was a mistake. This was the mistake. Like, you shouldn't have come here with Lance.
Gloria does manage to make contact and tells Manners that it was a terrible mistake to come here with Lance.
And that Lance is going to kill him.
And that Lance to kill him. And then we've got that reveal, that standard reveal where Gloria, all we see is the conversation between Manners and Gloria, and then in the background,
I think you have a 5-minute scene after that. Well, I like the idea too of Manners having to try and play off like he wasn't just talking to his dead wife.
Oh, God, that's good.
Like having a scene where
this happens.
Lance is like, so nothing's happening. You don't feel anything, and he's just like, nope. I feel like Principal Manners is being played by Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, he's definitely Paul Giamatti, 100%. Yeah, he has to be. He's the only person in my head that works for that. So what I've got so far is during homecoming, Lance and Manners go off to the secret spot to do their plan, which is now a taped-off crime scene. Lance convinces Manners that the spiritual energy is going to be super high. They have to do it there. Gloria does manage to make contact and tells Manners that it was a terrible mistake to come here with Lance and that Lance is going to kill him. This happens secretly. Lance is not aware that this is happening, and Manners has to play it off. And then, so how does this resolve? Does Manners kill Lance?
I don't think that Manners kills Lance. I think that I mean, Lance has to die.
Definitely. I mean, there could be a scuffle.
But I mean, you could also have like the police or somebody else show up. I mean, they're at a crime scene.
They are.
Right? So I think that the detective, and I hate to introduce another character so late in the game.
We can
imagine that the detective who's been sniffing around this entire thing and trying to figure out like what all this crap is that's going on with the occult shows up at the crime scene that night and ends up shooting Lance. But this detective had been convinced the entire time that Principal Manners had always been the one who killed his wife.
Yeah.
And also, she was under the impression that he also killed the student.
Yeah. That Manners killed Gloria and the student. But I'm going to say there has to be some sort of violent action that's happening as... Why did my phone turn off again?
Yeah. Maybe it's a scuffle, or maybe it's like...
There's something happening, like Lance has to somehow find out that Manners knows now.
I think that he knows because they know each other so well. And so that's the whole thing, is Lance is prodding him. He's like, you don't feel any different? You haven't... And
Manners is really bad at
he's bad at
lying.
And so he, Lance says, try again, close your eyes, something along those lines. And that's when you see Lance raise the hammer, and then he gets shot by the detective.
Yeah. Lance says, try again. Manners closes his eyes. Lance raises the hammer. The detective who have been sniffing around, and then we get, I think through this is like, it would be possible if this were a film, to do some sort of flashback scene now that he has had contact with Gloria, just little vignettes of Lance being trained by Gloria and being found out and killing her and that sort of thing.
I mean, when he's just actually, he's just an evil dude.
Yeah.
But he's so likable up until that point.
An evil high schooler. We have a montage of this. And then we see Manners sitting alone in his house. Bittersweet, now having avenged
and closure.
His wife. Yeah. Awesome. So that is great. A wonderful story. Now, as is traditional for this show, I'm going to read it, what we have from beginning to end. So here we go. Whoa, what the frick? My whole thing slightly screwed up. I did not mean for that to happen. Okay. So we have character 1 is the rich kid, Lance. Character 2 is the principal, Jerry Manners. An important location is the secret spot under the bridge, and the object is a hammer. Mr. Manners' late wife, Principal Manners' late wife, Gloria, supposedly used to work with ghosts and spirits. Lots of ghost talk happens about his wife and his ancient house in the outskirts of town. Mr. Manners knows that his wife did indeed work with ghosts, and something happened to her, or something happened around that whole idea, which led to her death a year ago at homecoming. Lance runs the school. He's the most popular kid with a lot of power and money. But a viral video of a conversation between Lance and Manners, taped without their knowledge, reveals that Lance believes in ghosts, etc., and is trying to contact the other side. All his rich friends abandon him after this video goes viral because he's suddenly not cool. But we find out that Lance is actually trying to help the principal contact his late wife to determine who killed her. Lance has a pretty good, if way too kind, for a rich kid life, we find out, which led him to explore the occult.
Can I pause for 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
I think the person that videotaped him was Sylvia.
Oh yeah, perfect. That's good. Taped by Lance's ex Sylvia, without their knowledge. Cool. That's excellent. So it led him to explore the occult. What we find out at this point is that he wanted to get away from his boring rich kid life, and he offered the principal help for discovering Gloria for reasons unknown. Principal Manor's wife was killed on homecoming the previous year, and we're quickly approaching the 1-year anniversary of her death. Besides all the trappings of being a popular kid and going to homecoming, although he's a little less popular now, Lance wants to use this significant night to contact Gloria. They choose a time during the homecoming dance, during like a song, to go into the secret spot under the bridge where Gloria's body was found, slain by a hammer, to contact her and figure out who did it. We do see a flashback at some point during this story of an argument between Manners and Lance, where Lance says, "We must find out who killed your wife, even if I have to delve deeply into the dark arts." Manners is originally not entirely on board and wants to let it go and move on, but is convinced. It turns out, according to Gloria's journal, she had been planning a ritual last year at homecoming, so that's where the homecoming plan comes from for Lance and Manners. 3 days before homecoming, another kid dies from Lance's class. This was Sylvia, Lance's ex, who is found dead at the secret spot under the bridge. No hammer is found, but she was killed with a blunt object. Rumors of canceling the homecoming swirl, but they decide to hold vigil and press on. During homecoming, Lance and Manners go off to the secret spot to do their plan, which is now a taped-off crime scene. Lance convinces Manners that the spiritual energy is going to be super high and that they have to do it there. Gloria does manage to make contact and tells Manners that it was a terrible mistake to come here with Lance and that Lance is going to kill him because Lance killed her. This conversation happens secretly. Lance is not aware that this is happening, and Manners has to play it off, but he's not great at lying, and Lance says to try it again and convinces Manners to close his eyes and, pretend. Lance raises the hammer. The detective who has been sniffing around this whole thing shows up at the crime scene while this is happening and ends up shooting Lance to stop him from killing Manners. This detective, who probably was in the early parts of the story too, if I were to rewrite this, was under the impression that Manners killed Gloria and the student, and Sylvia. We then get a bunch of vignettes of Lance, who had been working with Gloria about the occult for years, but Gloria finds out that Lance has actually killed people before. Gloria is killed by Lance. Gloria also informed Lance's partner at the time, Sylvia, that Lance is a killer. So we have a montage of all these scenes, and then we see, finally, Manners sitting alone in his house, bittersweet, but now having avenged his wife and getting closure. So
if it was the late 90s, I think that script would catch like a mill too. 1.2 million.
Yeah, I think so. It does sound like a sort of late 90s mystery story. Well, that was awesome. I think that one could literally be made into something too. It's contained. It does have a good sort of red herring and bait and switch sort of thing going on, which is really cool. I love the occult shit that's really real in this world. I always love it when it's not a rumor or fake. It can start out as being, oh, that's all bullshit, but then you determine at some point that it's really here.
You introduce the spirituality aspect of it at some point halfway through the movie, and then it's just like, oh no, this is actually real. It's real,
yeah. So that was really great. It cool. was really wonderful having you on. That was very fun. Did you enjoy yourself?
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, I mean, this is a blast. Thanks so much, Cameron. I mean, it's so fun, and I watched one of these and I was just like, it's a cool platform. I
think it's working out really well, I think. But yeah, thank you so much for being on. And thanks for creating a story. I'm going to hang up the Zoom call now, but you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will talk to you later, man.
All right. Cheers, guys.
And with that, we have come to the end of the 5th episode of Storyboard. Thank you all for joining us. Just for some credits and things, if you want to support the show and other projects that I do, you can head over to patreon.com/Cameron Evesque Davis, which is spelled, is this the right side? Yes, spelled like that. And you can consider sending me $1 or so. All my stuff is also plugged below. I will be also updating with the YouTube link for Ben's production company. Definitely go check their stuff out. That show that they're doing, Wrecked Reruns, sounds really fun. So definitely be on the lookout for that. All the music that's been playing in the background here, this sort of fake Stranger Things music, is by Tabletop Audio, tabletopaudio.com. Go check him out. He's really good. The intro animation was done by Jeremiah Erickson, and the intro theme for Storyboard was written and composed by myself. And yeah, without... That's all I got. So thank you all so much for watching this episode of Storyboard. It was a fucking blast, and we hope you enjoyed it. You have a wonderful day. Bye.